any other night of entertainment.
Well, that leads us to our most important things of the day. Jen, let's hit the little sounder.
Now, on the early game, let's kick off the show with the MITs, the most important things on the game.
Maybe not the most important things, but I spent my Tuesday night rewatching the Clemson-South Carolina football game. And, Preston, this is something that we've been building to, and we'll get into a little bit of audio. Todd McShay praising LaNorris Sellers. And when you know the outcome of a game, when you know the outcome and you can sit down and you can really watch, you absorb it, you take it in differently. Some plays that maybe you forget occurred, that you go back and you rewatch and you're like, wow, that was really, really impressive. And last night for me, that was LaNorris Sellers. And I put it on Twitter, recording the actual game, the actual little footage on just the second play of the game, a particular scramble he had that I think highlighted, because it was a little bit different than the 2 touchdown runs. But on the second play of the game, the particular scramble he had that highlighted what LaNorris Sellers had become at the end of the season with Missouri and Texas A&M. Not in that he was able to break out of the pocket and take off running, but that he should have been sacked. There was no reason whatsoever that he should have broken out and had a very long scramble on the second play of the game that set the tone. There were different things that occurred, but LaNorris Sellers, that's the guy that we want to see, and we'll talk about it today with Todd McShay and where he's going.
Todd McShay stole our analysis. He gets paid a lot of money. We don't get paid a lot of money, but we've been here for 2 years already, and Todd McShay just gets to swoop in as the national guy and talk about, oh, LaNorris Sellers, look at his development. We've been here.
Right.
If you've listened to the early game, we said we already gave him a Heisman. We named him a dark horse candidate after a spring game. I said that he was going to be the greatest quarterback in Gamecock history after one play that he reached down, grabbed the fumble snap, threw it out of bounds. I said, oh, that's the guy. And now Todd McShay and all these national guys get to come in here, and that's fine. That's okay. We're going to listen to them legitimize what we've already told you.
Yesterday, we got a little bit into the DraftKings, the DraftKings point spreads, and we talked about that. So going back and rewatching tonight, and you mentioned being the greatest quarterback ever to maybe play for the University of South Carolina, it's going to be interesting to see what LaNorris Sellers does in year 2. Now that he's comfortable, now that he's the man, now that he is nationally known the way he built himself up at the end of the year. But I go back to last night, some of the scrambles, even some of the throws. Remember early on last season, some of the throws he had were always high early on. I still can't help but laugh a little bit, giggle about something as simple as the goggles, going from the goggles to the contacts. But whatever it did, the development of him throughout the year. And I think the other question I would have as we discuss him a little bit this morning and what he's really going to be and what we're going to hear about him really over about the next 60 days, leading up to fall camp. But what is the development and what was the difference between the Clemson game to the Illinois game?
You're saying as far as what he did, why he looked the way he looked against Clemson, and why he didn't look that way against Illinois?
Yeah, is it as simple as, well, it's a new offensive coordinator? Is it as simple as they told him, hey, keep your eyes downfield more and worry less about breaking out of the pocket and running and being a threat? I don't want to say not being a threat, but being a threat with your legs.
Yeah, it could be that. It could be that Illinois saw the Clemson game and they were able to study film and, hey, let's say, hey, Wes Godwin, we're not going to do what you did. Right. We're going to do something totally different. They might have been able to do that. So, yeah, it is interesting when you watch those games and you see that you know the ending. It's a lot better. It's like watching a movie.
Yeah.
When if you watch The Sixth Sense, you would have known that all those people were dead. But you don't get that the first time through. Right. When you go back and watch it again, you're like, oh, yeah, those people are dead.
Things start to stand out a little bit different.
It's not that. It wasn't that much of a surprise. I just didn't. Or The Usual Suspects. You ever seen that movie before? It's like, he is Kaiser Sose. Look at that. So, yeah, when you watch a game for the second time, it's like, okay, I can see these things building. I see these things happening, and it all makes sense now.
Certain plays I highlighted again a lot of ones on my Twitter account last night, that particular run, but then the LaNorris Sellers fumble. And you rewatch that on the very first drive. South Carolina looks like they're about to go out and take the lead and go up 7-0 on the opening drive. They're running the ball efficiently, effectively, and then you get LaNorris Sellers on his very first pass, that little bugaboo that had hurt him early in the year, where he is sacked and he fumbles, and South Carolina turns the ball over with an opportunity to put a touchdown up. But, yeah, you watch that and you see it differently. You see a 4th-and-1 stop where old man Demetrius Knight knifes through along with Jalen Kilgore and takes down Clemson, takes down Phil Maffa in the backfield, where Clemson looks like they're about to score. It's a different way of watching it. It's a different way of watching it. I know the NHL gets going tonight, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But maybe I'll check out the second half now with a little less stress, knowing what's going to occur at the very end of the game. So that'll be our most important thing of the day. We'll get into a lot of discussion on some football. Nick Eamon-Warry drawing some strong praise early on at mandatory camp for the Seattle Seahawks, and more of a question of when, not if, he becomes the starter in the secondary.
Again, we have told you here first. I was here. I told you. All you got to do is turn on the film. 3rd and 11. Luther Braden in the flats. Nick Eamon-Warry, football position. Takes him down. Could have gave you his draft film then. I could have got paid a lot of money for the Seattle Seahawks to be drafted. Say, hey, take that guy. He's going to be good.
There's another really good play, and I didn't put it on the Twitter last night, but there's an open field tackle where he essentially does the same thing. Clemson's got a guy in a one-on-one situation. They'll pass out about 3 or 4 yards down the field. He comes up, does a good job of chopping the feet, but also exploding through the ball carrier, wrapping him up, throwing him backwards. Very easily, if he misses that tackle, turns into a 20, 25-yard gain. Instead, sure tackler Nick stepped in, but we'll get into that a little bit. Some interesting NBA news yesterday. Tom Thibodeau, Mr. Defense. I don't know if he wore his welcome out in New York. I don't know if there was a player revolt. I was kind of blown away by this.
I think this is a really interesting topic because there's a lot of conversation on both sides. And whenever a coach gets fired, there's usually people who say they want him to stay. There's usually people who say they want him to go. And this one's no different. And I made an assessment about the Knicks fans being ready for the SEC. But maybe Knicks management is also ready for the SEC. When you start making firings like this and you start having coaching decisions, and then what I heard them say, can we get Mark Jackson back? We need somebody from our university. Oh, man. Yeah, the Knicks, very interesting place.
Knicks letting Tom Thibodeau go, and now we'll see who they hire. Back-to-back years of losing in the Eastern Conference Finals there, and we'll see if that's something that they can get rectified to move forward for their opportunities. Tonight, I mentioned it, NHL gets going. Panthers and Oilers in a rematch of last year's series. Is this something that you sprinkle into the viewing pleasure tonight?
Yeah, I want to see the Panthers go for a repeat. Actually, that's not true. That's not true.
Okay.
That's not true. I want to see Edmonton win this series so we can go for a rubber match.
Okay.
In next year. So we already did 2. So Panthers took 1. Edmonton takes this year, and that gives me something to look forward to next year.
I think I'm pulling for Edmonton. I don't really care for the Florida Panthers, so it's not a matter of who am I pulling for. If I'm going to pull for somebody, it has to be Edmonton. It's more of, am I hate watching the Florida Panthers because they're so good and they eliminated my Hurricanes, or am I legitimately pulling for Edmonton because they are actually, in terms of hockey, really fun to watch. They're fast, they're physical, they got a little bit of cockiness to them. The problem is they're going up against the bully in the Florida Panthers. So I think actually I might have just continued to talk myself into that one. So, but we'll get more into a lot of that going on here as we roll through the day. Plenty to get into. We'll kind of revisit the Kevin O'Sullivan situation as well, and Coastal Carolina. Discuss that later on in the show. We believe we may have Chance Miller. Did not respond yesterday, but check into that. Make sure he's hopping on with us later on today. But a lot of football discussion. As we'll talk about guys like LaNorris Sellers, Nick Eamon-Warry, and ESPN decided to get controversial yesterday, Preston, and put out their FPI. And I saw on some different spots, the Twitter accounts, the message boards, a lot of people really questioning who put that together.
The nerds. It's the easy answer. The nerds. Anytime you have multiple letters that we don't know what they mean, the football power index, blame it on the nerds.
Team
And the
projections.
computers.
The FPI, the team projections for 2025 have been released, and we will get into that. So a lot to do this morning. If you want to be a part of the program, 803-404-6100. That's how you can weigh in if you want to do so. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. Come back. We'll get into a little bit of LaNorris Sellers. You're listening to the early game.
It's Jen for CHW Cabinetry in Lexington. When we had all the demolition done in our kitchen, we went to CHW Cabinetry to get new cabinetry for the entire kitchen, and the experience was so great that when we needed to do some updating in a couple bathrooms, obviously CHW Cabinetry is where we went. They helped us out in choosing the right cabinets for us, the right accessories that we're looking for. So many options as far as, pulls and doorknobs and all of that. Had no idea there was that much variety these days, but it was a fantastic process all the way around. Yet again, they can help you with updating some things in your closet, maybe getting rid of wire hanging racks. Maybe you're looking for some drawers in your cabinetry and in your closet. Those things can help as well, make you more functional. CHWCabinetry.com, the place to go. 803-520-6837. Tell them Jen Jensen sent you. CHW Cabinetry, passion from inspiration to installation. Things looking clear this morning on the highways. No accidents to report at this time. Some late afternoon showers are possible into this evening. 82, that's going to be our high. And the showers will continue into tomorrow morning. High of 81. It should be clearing out for Friday. We'll have some cloudy conditions and back up to 91 for your Friday. Right now, though, it's the clouds are out. It's 70 on 107.5 The Game.
.617 on a Wednesday morning, June the 4th. Hope you're doing well this morning. Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen, as we get up and get going. And on a quiet night, Preston Thorne, where, yes, you had your Major League Baseball. Although I don't know if this is where Major League Baseball sleeps here for about these 2 months. You get to the Summer Classic, the All-Star Game, and then maybe you start to get reinvestigated. Okay, where's everybody at in the standings? Where's everybody at in the race?
No, you're watching it now, especially if your team's doing well. Man, go Cubs, go.
That might be true. That might be true. Yeah, if your team's doing well, maybe you're doing well.
If you're the Rockies fans, though, I don't know if you're.
Yeah, they had a record attendance of 5,000 people went to the last Rockies game. Rockies Marlins, 5,000 folks went to the game.
That's brutal.
Paid attendance.
Sounds like 5,000 people got punished for something they didn't know they were doing. Mm-hmm. But I say that because last night, good night to maybe go back and rewatch a South Carolina game, and maybe this is where also you start to transition and you move forward from last year to 2025. And part of it, I think, is going back and really now knowing the outcome of the game, being able to watch LaNorris Sellers. And I think, honestly, Preston, and maybe you can speak to this better since you actually played and you've seen guys grow on the field, but the development of LaNorris Sellers from game 1 to game 12, from Old Dominion to Clemson.
Yeah, it was huge. There were folks, not us, because, again, we were here early on LaNorris Sellers, but there were conversations about, I don't know if he's ready. Should we just bring in somebody else? If we're going to, do we need to play him? What's those conversations about? And that was happening early in the season. Obviously, it was fueled by a very less than impressive performance. But, yes, the player that he was then to the player that he was at the end of the season against Clemson was two almost totally different people.
As Preston said, we were on this very early. I believe we were at Jonathan Alston's Beyond Now Foundation golf tournament the day after the 2024 spring game. We declared LaNorris would probably win the Heisman, probably win the Super Bowl MVP. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, nor did the Heisman. True, good point. Well, actually, I was pretty sure he was going to win it all last year. I think I was pretty sure. But Todd McShay has finally jumped on board, and here is Todd McShay talking about the pro comparisons that he sees for LaNorris Sellers.
I can't coach what he's got, man. This guy's a bigger Jalen Hurts in my mind. And I want you to remember where Jalen was at Alabama as in his first year as a starter. There were flashes, there were some amazing things, but he was a hell of a lot better as a runner than he was as a passer. Right? He's 2 inches taller than Jalen. He's 20 pounds heavier than Jalen, yet he's just as fast and he's just as sudden. And when he's playing with confidence, he's just as creative. That's it. Like, that creativity is so dangerous, and you can't coach that. Okay? You can't. You can't coach what Jalen has. You can't coach what LaNorris has. You can't coach what Lamar has. You just can't. You either have it or you don't.
I'm ready to go, I guess, bigger. Jalen Hurts is awesome, so don't get me wrong. I think this kid could be Josh Allen. Like, I see Josh Allen because I see that frame. He's that much bigger. When you look at how big this guy is and what he can do.
I just think he's twitchier and doesn't have the arm of Josh. I think he has a damn good arm.
Man, I don't know.
Josh Allen's arm?
Yes. I don't know, man. I know it's the ceiling. I know LaNorris Sellers isn't there yet. I get it. but the raw ability, the tools, the talent, I mean, it's exciting.
It's like two kids in a candy store that have had a bunch of candy canes and are all hopped up on sugar.
Yeah. They were ready to go. They're excited. They're talking about some dude that's going to be possibly the number 1 pick.
And he is ours.
Exactly. We're not talking about some rando. We're talking about our guy.
Let's do this real quick. You've been on the field. You've gone after quarterbacks. I think the guy that you've talked about being a bigger, obviously the biggest probably quarterback, I don't know if he would be the biggest, would be Jared Lorenzen, right? Like,
yeah, obviously.
Like,
yes.
Now, the old hefty lefty, R.I.P., he wasn't quite as mobile as, say, a Matt Jones, who was a bigger quarterback that you had to track down.
Yeah, Matt Jones was big and fast, but he was tall. There wasn't a threat of Matt Jones running you over also.
Okay.
Which there's the immediate threat of this guy running you over. And that's where that Josh Allen comparison really does make a lot of sense, because Josh Allen is just as likely to run by you as he is to run you over. Which, again, why are we protecting these people?
Okay.
Why? He's 6'3". He's 243 pounds. I think he can protect himself, especially when he starts running. But that's besides the point. But I do think that Josh Allen comparison is liable. The Jalen Hurts comparison, we'll take that too if you want to talk about the leadership and the intangibles and all that stuff. But from raw physical athletic ability, that makes sense.
You go with the Josh Allen?
Yeah, I can see it, because when we talk about where was Josh Allen wasn't Josh Allen in his second year of playing. We didn't even know who he was. Right. And so, yeah, I think you might even say he's definitely ahead of where Josh Allen was if you were to compare their same times in school.
So the question will be, and we'll get more into this when we get to July and SEC Media Days, it'll be interesting to see, given that LaNorris and Dylan Stewart, even though they're younger players, they're kind of the face of the program now. If they get taken to Atlanta for SEC Media Day by Shane Beamer, I would imagine everybody wants to hear from those two guys, especially given that it could be LaNorris Sellers last year at SEC Media Days. But what becomes the expectation then for LaNorris Sellers? 18 touchdowns and 7 interceptions last year. But again, it was the progress at the end of the year that stands out so much, and how he was able to guide this team to those victories over Texas A&M, Missouri, and Clemson.
Well, that clip was very interesting because he talked a lot about coaching. You can't coach that. You can't do that. Well, he also said when he is playing with confidence, he is creative. He was obviously playing with a lot of confidence against Clemson. I don't know what his mental state was against Illinois, but you saw a lot less creativity. You saw a lot less action. You saw a lot less of those things that made him great against Clemson. So I think that gulf can Mike Shula create, develop, enhance the confidence that's already in LaNorris Shula's and LaNorris Sellers. Then we might be able to answer that question.
So 2,500 passing yards last year, 18 touchdowns. So is it fair to bump those numbers and say, all right, 3,000 pass yards this year total, 25 touchdowns? Is that fair, or are we over-expecting something from him?
I think it's fair.
Okay.
If we're expecting an improvement, if we're talking about him being the top 10 mock draft, if we're talking about NFL, we're having all this hype, yeah, that's obviously fair.
Because I say that because there's got to be development. One of the questions I put on our rundown is, are we overhyping LaNorris Sellers? Are we taking this too far with him?
No.
Okay.
We've never been here before. What do you mean? How can you overhype somebody that is a projected what's the next? Who else could be more hyper?
Spencer Rattler was pretty hyped because, again, you were talking about a guy who had entered the previous season as a Heisman candidate. And him coming here, LaNorris, the difference between Spencer and LaNorris is the hype comparison is that LaNorris did this here. He built this here. Spencer was coming from Oklahoma, where he had done it, and you were like, man, look at that. Remember, Spencer Rattler entered his sophomore year expecting to breeze through the season, go play in maybe a playoff game, or at least a New Year's Six game or whatever it is, swing through New York real quick, scoop up the Heisman, get the jacket tailor-made for the NFL draft. Obviously, all that went south. But if we go back, that was the expectation for Spencer Rattler to kind of roll through all that. And then he came to South Carolina, and it was still to take this program to another level, to which that particular year, obviously he did. That was an 8-win season. You knocked off Clemson. You knocked off Tennessee. So there was a lot of hype and expectation for Spencer Rattler. This, though, is South Carolina made, as you and Jen just pointed out. He's been ours. He was ours. He wasn't Oklahoma's or Florida's or anybody else. And then you go to the player comp. the player comparison, which is what Todd McShay just said, a lot of things that aren't coachable, just the size and the physical stature of him.
So what are you saying? So are you saying we should just take this? Are you saying we don't want to do this? We want to just
you and I have been way ahead of this.
Stash this.
We've been way ahead of this. We've hyped him up. I think it was. I think I actually started the hype train even before you during his redshirt year when I believe it was the play against Vanderbilt or maybe it was the Furman throw where he rolled out and chunked one downfield. And I think it was in one of those tweets during the game that I said LaNorris Sellers' debut in 2024 would be one of the most hyped debuts that we've had for a player, up there with a Jadeveon Clowney, up there with a Marcus Lattimore, probably a few other players you can think of going way back to the 80s that you were just excited when they had announced their decision, and then you're going, all right, what day does this guy start? When do we get to see that guy? So, but my question becomes so much of we are about to put so much on this guy because, Preston, as we sit here on June the 4th, we don't know what we truly don't know what the running back situation is. Nothing with Rasul Faison. The wide receiver situation, it feels like they're talented. It feels like they have a lot of good guys, especially returners and Jared Brown and Mazio Bennett. And again, you know that I like Vandrevius Jacobs and Nick Harbor, but you're still waiting on that guy to step up. So it all looks like we're looking around going, hey, LaNorris, we still don't expect much out of the offensive line. Save us, please. Save us every play, each and every play, and throw for 25 touchdowns and 3,000 yards, or else that 7.5 win total, we're dicey on 7 or 8.
And my answer to that is yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's the expectation. Anything other than that is gravy. But if we're talking the hype mobile, the top 10 projections, that's what those guys do.
803-404-6100. So we will obviously, LaNorris Sellers will be the topic anytime we talk offense over the next 60 days, which is understandable because of, as you just said, the projections already, the expectation for the NFL draft, the expectation for South Carolina to improve upon 9 wins, and it all falls on his shoulders. I think the good thing is, at least when you hear him speak, and you got to listen very quickly because he is a man of few words.
Very brief.
But he seems like he has the attitude to be able to handle all that.
Yeah, he has the disposition for sure. You're not worried about him falling into any of the trappings that might come with all that expectation off the field. You don't have to. That's not an issue. So yes, there will be expectations and pressure on the field, and we'll see if he can be able to deal with it.
803-404-6100. We'll come back. ESPN has released their Football Power Index.
Nerds.
Preston Thorne will call them out. We'll do that when we return. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner for Zerorez Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning. Trust me, the summer is here. That means the kids are at the home more. That probably means the pets are running around a little bit more. And that means a little bit more effort for you to keep the carpets, rugs, tile, and upholstery all insanely clean. But you know what? It really doesn't require any effort but a simple phone call. If you call Zerorez today and mention me, Bill Gunner, at 1075 The Game, you'll get 15% off all cleaning services. That's right, 15% off everything. Carpets, air ducts, area rugs, and more. Just mention me, Bill Gunner, at 1075 The Game to secure this deal. You can also book online, ZerorezColumbia.com. And while you're doing it, you may as well ask about the Zerorez commercial cleaning process as well. Trust me, Zerorez, with their patented ZR water technology, all it does is leave your house looking spotless and clean. So call today and mention me, Bill Gunner, at 1075 The Game, to get 15% off all cleaning services. Zerorez, spell it backwards or forwards, is the right way to clean.
Traffic-wise, not seeing any accidents. A disabled vehicle could be slowing things down a little bit. I-20 westbound, just after Monticello Road, so caution there. 82 for the high today, 81 tomorrow. This afternoon and early evening, we could see some showers popping in. Those will continue through the evening and into tomorrow morning. And again, like I said, tomorrow's high 81. But when the rain goes away, the temperatures go up. For Friday, we're looking at clouds and 91. Currently 70 on 107.5 The Game.
.635 as we roll along on your Wednesday morning. Hope you're up and at 'em on a day, as you heard with Jen just saying, maybe some thunderstorms late in the afternoon. But get up and get going, and we'll carry you through the next 2.5 hours. And talking a lot of football this morning, LaNorris Sellers, Todd McShay talking about him, and then also ESPN. As you said, the nerds.
The nerds. They get their machines together. They get their numbers. They start using decimals and then go beep, 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 beep. I have the decimal number right here, and we're going to run it through the system 20,000 times. And at this number, we're going to have the bleep, bleep, bleep. Yeah, this is what it is. It's the FPI, the Football Power Index. That sounds really strong and powerful, but let's say exactly what it is. I want to read this verbatim so that I do not mess it up. The Football Power Index, the numbers, they take the FBS's team strength in points per game relative to the national average on offense, defense, and special teams, make adjustments for starters loss, recruiting talent, and other personnel. Those numbers are then plugged into the schedule, and everything is simulated 20,000 times to track each team's odds of winning its conference, making the playoff, and advancing through the national title. 20,000 times, Bill.
Some point in term.
Not 20,001 times. Not 30, 20,000 times. And so they run this through the computers. The computers go beep, bop, boop, and then we come out with something.
Yeah, that intern. All right, young man or woman, go right over there. There's your computer. We'll see you at the end of May. You get 20,000 times.
Oh, you think that's a person? It's 2025, brother. That's.
I don't know if they have to hit refresh, though, on the computer. Like, oh, okay, refresh.
If only it would be a person. That's AI all the way right now.
So, a lot of discussion about this. Number one, let's go through the top 5 real quick, and you tell me where if they're anywhere you disagree with the top 5. Number 1 is Texas. They have the highest percentage of winning the national championship, the highest percentage of making the college football playoff. 83.9% for the playoff, 22.2% for the national championship, and they are projected at 10.4 victories, whatever that means, for the season.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to agree or disagree with anything. I think this is just to take in information, so I get it. I don't know how good they're going to be. That's all based on them assuming that Arch Manning is going to win the Heisman, right?
I assume so.
And I didn't see that.
Or they're at least assuming Arch Manning is going to be really, really, really good.
And I didn't see that last year, so we'll see.
So, again, that's the highest percentage, 22.2%, and the highest percentage in terms of making the playoff. Let's skip all the way to number 7. Number 7 has, oh, by the way, Texas, Georgia's at 2, for those wondering. Ohio State is at 3. Alabama is at 4. Penn State is at 5. Now, I'm not questioning, when I look at that top 5, I'm not questioning the talent of Alabama. That's not what I'm doing. What I am questioning is how is the quarterback play for Alabama this year? And the guy that I like so much as a head coach, or liked so much prior to last year, Kalen DeBoer. How does he handle this coming season in the SEC? I know Alabama's uber talented. They've still got lots of Nick Saban players running around over there. But how does Ty Simpson play at quarterback? Do they go with someone else? How does Kalen DeBoer coach that team? You can't have the slip-ups they had last year against Vanderbilt and the blowout loss to Oklahoma. So how does Kalen DeBoer do? That's my only question about the top 5 there. Number 7 on this list, so I skipped 6, Oregon. Number 7 is Clemson. Clemson has a 17.3% chance, or excuse me, that's their FPI ranking. Clemson has a 47.3% chance of making the playoff, a 3.8% chance of winning the national championship, and a projected win total of 9.7.
Yeah, that is a very poignant number, because when you see that based on all the other information in the articles that you read, some people are saying that they're definitely undervalued by the FPI, saying that they should be higher based on all of those information, based on the returners that they have coming back, based on them having a quarterback, based on their head coach, based on them making changes in their personnel with the coaching staff. They should probably be higher, but after 20,000 simulations, this is where the computer has them.
So that's where Clemson is at. Let's skip all the way down to number 16. South Carolina right now has a 20.3% chance of making the college football playoff, according to the FPI, and a 0.8% chance of winning the national championship. They are actually the first team just below Michigan. Michigan has a 1% chance of winning the national championship. South Carolina is the very first team on this list that is a decimal spot, 0.8 in this position to win the national championship, but 20.3%, and there's that projected win total right almost on the number of 7.5 that we've seen put out. South Carolina's projected wins by the FPI is 7.3.
Yeah, and so 0.8, you're saying there's a chance.
There is a chance.
I would imagine that if they ran the FPI last year, there was zero chance, maybe 0.1.
Okay,
right? So now we're up to 0.8, and that is a chance. That is, we are in a conversation. We're in the conversation, and that's a good spot for them to be. The projected win totals is still right where everybody has sort of said. So that's curious to me why they're ranked so high, but not necessarily as high in the projected win totals.
They again, you're right. 0.8% there is, but at least as you said,
there's a chance.
We're at the table.
That's right. Which hey, you listening out there, don't take that for granted. We don't get to be in this conversation very often. And why are we in this conversation? Because we got the guy. That's it. We got the guy, and people think he's the guy, and we got a coach that people are coming around and building confidence in, Shane Beamer. We have the guy, we have the coach, and we got a dude that can sack the quarterback. We're here. We have a chance.
As a matter of fact, Richard weighed in and said Mike Shula has the most pressure of any coach because everyone is looking at him now to see what he does to help LaNorris. We know the talent is there, but can he enhance it?
It's a good observation.
803-404-6100. A couple others on these. The one that keeps surprising me, Auburn at number 14 on this list, the FPI, a 1.1% chance of winning a national championship, a 21.8% of making the college football playoff, and their projected win total at 7.5.
Well, from what I've read, the reason why Auburn keeps getting into this conversation is because they supposedly had a very strong transfer portal class. And so whatever that means, if we're assuming that the transfer portal class is going to come in and change some things for where they were last year, then maybe. But you're right. When I hear Auburn, I don't think anything of them.
No, I'm with you, and I feel like it's kind of it is a make or break season for Hugh Freeze. They went out and got him. And, you went out and you kind of looked the SEC in the eye and said, yes, we know this guy did some very questionable things at Mississippi, but we like questionable things down here in Auburn. We're going to take this guy and we're going to start winning. And the first 2 years have not gone as planned for him. And now it's kind of a make-or-break season. But as you mentioned, with the transfer portal class and with Hugh Freeze, who I do think is a good coach, we'll see what happens there, projected at number 14. A couple others that stood out, Notre Dame, the last year's runner-up, checks in at number 9. 2.4% chance of winning the national championship, 45.6% chance of making the college football playoff. I actually feel like that percentage should be higher.
When you see 0.8, which we had, and you see 2.4, is that any difference? Do you feel different?
No.
Looking at this chart, when do you start to feel a difference? We are at 0.8. When do you start to feel like, oh yeah, that's significantly different than what our numbers is? Is it 7? Is it 10? 10?
All right, if I blocked out this side of my screen that tells me the team names, because I'm getting caught up in the team names here. If I block it out, I feel, probably 10.
Okay.
10.4.
And who's 10.4?
That's Alabama.
Okay. So everybody else is basically throw them in a bag and pick somebody up.
I do feel in that. I will say 7.6 to about 2.4, 2.3. I got to block out the names over here because if I block out, like Tennessee is number 10. Tennessee is 2.3% chance to win the national championship.
How?
Exactly. That's why if I blocked out the names, I would probably be about I'd probably actually go to 3. I'd probably stop it at 3, 7.6 to 3.2.
This is why the nerds got to update their computers, because they were probably running the simulation based on Nico being the quarterback. He's not the quarterback. We don't know what they're going to be this year. So you can run it 20,000 times, and they still got a dude coming from App State who's never played in the SEC before. So we'll see.
803-404-6100. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It is the early game.
Preston here for Cato's Power Equipment. Cato's Power Equipment has been family-owned and serving the Midlands since 1983. That's over 40 years. And third-generation owner Ben Cato provides top-notch service, great deals, and the mom-and-pop values that you love. And Ben is determined to raise the standards of sales, service, and retails. At Cato's, we're proud to offer a wide selection of new and pre-owned mowers, tractors, and more. So if you're ready to invest in something new, our friendly team is there to make the process easy, help you choose the right equipment, find financing options, and keep your gear running strong with expert service and parts. So whether you're a weekend warrior or a seasoned landscaping pro, Cato's has you covered with a huge selection of new and pre-owned mowers, tractors, and all the gear that you need to tackle any outdoor project. So swing by Cato's Power Equipment today or call them at 803-254-3711. That's 803-254-3711.
two tight ends this time with Michael Smith in the ball game. Josh will come over to the left side. Sanders points at another back. They'll blitz again off the edge. Sellers in the pocket, in trouble. Escapes one, escapes another. Sellers with another move at the 30, 35, 40. At the 50, into Clemson territory. LaNorris Sellers down to the 30-yard line. Give it to him, Superman. Right out of the phone booth on the first big play of the game.
Unbelievable.
Houdini, whatever you want to call him. He escapes again. This one for 38 yards, and he stuns the crowd here.
Plus, once he breaks the line of scrimmage, he leaves a guy in orange shirt grabbing air out there. For his size, he's got some shiftiness from LaNorris Sellers.
I don't think I've heard the Todd Ellis call of that just yet, but I used the word. I think the announcer on the television that I rewatched the South Carolina Clemson game last night. I think the announcer used Houdini, and then I think I put it in my tweet. That was the second play of the game, Preston, for LaNorris Sellers, and rewatching last night was quite enjoyable because you know the outcome of the game. You know that the fumble that would occur a couple plays later does not cost you the game. But I think I might go on a little tear here of watching that game, the Missouri game, and the Texas A&M game. Because I put to you, which is more entertaining to watch? And I think a lot of people, because it's Clemson and because it's your rival and because obviously it's great and it finishes, I might actually go with the Missouri game, though, because it was at home and the back and forth at the very end was crazy, and we also defeated Eli Drinkowitz, and I'm not sure that there wasn't a small level of more satisfaction of defeating the dork than there was of defeating the other dork in Dabo.
Yeah, we tossed him in the drink. That was one of the most fun things we did last year. So what's the question? The question is, if you had to go back and watch a game, if you're going to watch a game from last year, which of those games would it be? Would it be the Clemson game, which we know what happened? Would it be the Missouri game? Would it be Texas A&M? 803-404-6100. Of those three games, which one would you go back and watch?
And the reason I throw Texas A&M in there is because it was truly the coming out party for LaNorris Sellers. Like, if you go back and you look at the Oklahoma game, he managed, right? Like, South Carolina's defense won that ball game very early, and LaNorris Sellers, his stats were okay. They weren't fantastic. It was, I think, the first game he had without a turnover, but he kind of managed it. The Texas A&M game, he won it, and he dominated it. And we've talked about, I think it was 13 times that basically something of that nature where basically Texas A&M had some kind of free shot on him and could never get him down. That was, I think, the game that has led us to where we are now with the LaNorris Sellers hype. As crazy as it might sound, it wasn't the it wasn't the Missouri game, and it wasn't the Clemson game. It was that game where everybody went, oh, did you see what he just did in that game? Did you just see how he played? And has led us to where we are today.
Yeah, because things are happening. And you go back to watching that Clemson game, you rewatch that game, and to use a literary term, foreshadowing. That second play of the game told us what the rest of the game was going to be like. If you saw that play, you saw everything else. And just imagine, because even you hear it in the call. You hear Todd. He's in trouble. He has to escape. He's in a phone booth. He makes another guy miss. If you listen to that, you're thinking, oh, here we go again. He's about to get sacked. And that's what the Clemson fans were thinking. And then he escapes. And that set the tone for what the rest of that game was going to be like.
803-404-6100. Again, Shannon weighs in. Clemson game. Watched the last 9 minutes yesterday.
just on a humble. You got a reminder on your phone. Siri, pull up the last 9 minutes of the Clemson game, please.
And also another texter weighs in and says, I find myself watching the celebrations for the Clemson and A&M games more than the game. I rewatched the last 5 minutes of the Missouri game almost monthly. So,
and if you watch that last 5 minutes, you see the most beautifulest tackle in the world by Nick Emenwari.
Hour 2 on the way. Bill Gunner for Old Timey Meat Market. Summer is here. Last night, I grilled out some chicken breasts. Actually, I smoked some chicken breasts, put a little lemon pepper seasoning on them. Absolutely delicious. And guess what? It all starts with your daily trip. You heard that right. Daily trip during the summer to Old Timey Meat Market, where they have the absolute best selection, the best cuts of beef, of pork, of chicken. You can get great fish there. My daughter loves the salmon. They even have some incredible, you want to just do burgers? They have incredible cheddar burgers there that you can pick up. Let me tell you, those 3 locations, Old Timey Meat Market, you are not going to find better prices and better cuts of meat anywhere else. So stop by Old Timey Meat Market today. You got the South Congaree location, St. Andrews Road in Irmo, or the Lexington location where typically you're going to run into me, and visit with the family that is Old Timey Meat Market. They want to know your name, they want to know about your family, and they want to help you have a great dinner tonight. So stop by Old Timey Meat Market today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
Columbia College Drive and North Main Street have a report of an accident there, so be mindful. And could see some afternoon showers rolling in, kind of extending into this evening, 82 for the high. And tomorrow morning, those showers may continue. We'll have a high of 81, but that all clears out for Friday. 91 is the high that we will have for the end of the week. Right now, it's 70 on the early game.
7 a.m. as we roll along here on your Wednesday morning. Preston Thornton, Jen Jensen, Bill Gunner, as we have got you going. Talking some football here on a Wednesday morning after, I'd say, a quiet night. You can definitely get into Major League Baseball this time of year. I also think that people kind of like zone out on baseball because you've gotten through the first Major League Baseball because you've gotten through the first 2 months. A lot of the storylines have kind of played out. Now you kind of go into that, I don't want to say dead period, but I feel like the next 45 days, essentially leading up to the All-Star break, are kind of when people zone out. And then you come back from the All-Star break, and you're like, all right, where are we in the pennant? Are we in this thing? Am I tracking my team, or have I moved on? Are we thinking about, football season now, or are we tracking Major League Baseball playoffs? That's kind of how I feel about baseball. It's on. It's nice. But last night was a good night to rewatch some South Carolina college football from last year, in particular for me, the first half of the Clemson-South Carolina game.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm learning how many people rewatch games. I think that's a very fun exercise to do because I don't. And so I'm really curious to see how many people rewatch games or what games you rewatch, or if you're just sitting around bored. When I might typically pull up a Law and Order episode, do you pull up the last 5 minutes of the Missouri game? Or do you pull up Texas A&M? Or if Jen's watching Friends, do you just happen to pull up the 2010 College World Series? Or like, what are the watching habits of folks? So this is very informative for me.
Wait, and how often during the summer, 803-404-6100, how often do you rewatch a game? Now, I know it's dependent upon the season, so probably not many of you last year were rewatching the 2024 season.
Hey, there was that one game against Morehead State in which we won 5-4.
Well, I'm referring more to the 2024 football season. So last summer, or excuse me, the 2023 football season,
yeah.
The 2024. So the old 5-7 year. I'm imagining not many people were clicking on the to rewatch anything.
Yeah, that's probably you can probably do some analytics on that.
So, but I would imagine this coming summer, you might be far more willing to click on Missouri, rewatch that, where we launched him at the very end. You might be more willing to watch Texas A&M. You might actually be kind of inclined to watch to the LSU game just so you can get mad again and throw something at your TV at the officials.
That's a good one.
And then certainly you might be a little more inclined to watch South Carolina Clemson from November, which is what I did. And they're fun to watch because, well, you know the ending. And so now you're less stress watching and more enjoyment watching.
Yeah, as I said, it's like watching a movie and you know how it ends. You understand what's happening at the end of this movie, so it's like, oh, okay, I see how that's going. It's no problem.
Shannon says, I watch a couple times a week. Another texter weighs in, the 2024 game. The building is literally shaking. That's Alex weighing in. We got another texter that weighed in and said Texas A&M, the earthquake game. So,
okay, yeah, that's the Xavier Leggett.
No, I think he's referring to this past season. It got going.
It got going that loud. Okay.
Remember the Xavier Leggett game was in 2022. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I get it. And like I said, I'll give you a perfect example. And we're talking rewatching games. We're also talking about this morning. We've been talking about LaNorris Sellers, and we'll play some Todd McShay for you here in a second as he gets really, really excited for a player comparison. But you can watch that Missouri game, and in the game as it's happening, Brady Cook throws the touchdown pass to Luther Burden down the left sideline. You're like, oh, there goes that. But that's in real time. As you're rewatching now, you're like, we're about to get those guys. This is going to be great.
No, you watch it like, oh, no, wait. Here comes the good part. Here comes the good part. You got to pay attention. This is the good part.
Exactly. So that's what you got this morning. If you want to weigh in, 803-404-6100. Part of the reason we're doing this is Todd McShay on a podcast was talking about a pro comparison for LaNorris Sellers. And, Jen, this is going to be clip number 3. Here is what kind of got us on this discussion. This is Todd McShay, again, talking about LaNorris Sellers and really more, I think you would say, Preston, his future and trying to compare him to a current NFL quarterback. Here is Todd McShay talking about LaNorris Sellers.
I can't coach what he's got, man. This guy's a bigger Jalen Hurts in my mind. And I want you to remember where Jalen was at Alabama in his first year as a starter. Mm-hmm. There were flashes. There were some amazing things, but he was a hell of a lot better as a runner than he was as a passer, right? He's 2 inches taller than Jalen. He's 20 pounds heavier than Jalen, yet he's just as fast and he's just as sudden. And when he's playing with confidence, he's just as creative. That's that creativity is so dangerous, and you can't coach that. Okay?
No, you can't.
You can't coach what Jalen has. You can't coach what LaNorris has. You can't coach what Lamar has. You just can't. You either have it or you don't.
I'm ready to go, I guess, bigger. Jalen Hurts is awesome, so don't get me wrong. I think this kid could be Josh Allen. Like, I see Josh Allen because I see that frame. He's that much bigger. When you look at how big this guy is and what he can do.
I just think he's twitchier and doesn't have the arm of Josh. I think he has a damn good arm.
Oh, man, I don't know.
Josh Allen's arm?
Yes. I don't know, man. I know it's the ceiling. I know LaNorris Sellers isn't there yet. I get it. But the raw ability, the tools, the talent, I mean, it's exciting.
So Preston brings up a great point. You hear Todd McShay open that by saying you can't coach what he has. And this brings us to Mike Shula and how he has to manage not coaching out of LaNorris Sellers that kind of God-given ability, and I almost want to say making him a robot where he's got to stand back there. And I think, and I don't know this to be fact, this is my opinion, I think that that's what we feel like happened in the bowl game.
That seems to be general consensus, and that's what it's going to be Mike Shula's challenge is he's going to have to walk that line between trying to refine and develop his quarterbacking skills, but not making him into a robot or not making him do things that he's uncomfortable doing. And that's going to be a task. This might be, now, thankfully, Mike Shula has dealt with some of these things with Cam Newton. He's dealt with some of these sort of comparisons as far as skill set is concerned. But that is going to be the challenge for him as a coach, is trying to figure out, how do I refine his quarterbacking but not take away one of the things that makes him so special as a quarterback?
The background, let's remember, and there's slight differences, but one of Mike Shula's backgrounds is coaching Cam Newton. So it's not like this is a first time doing this with this kind of quarterback. Would you agree with that? This is not, he's like for Dow Loggins, it felt like Dow Loggins all of a sudden figured out, you know what, I'm just going to call a play, and LaNorris will make it work. Like, he kind of figured it out how to do that, whereas Mike Shula should have experience. Now, I get what we understand what I think Mike Shula talked about was maybe not breaking the pocket and just taking off running, but keeping your eyes downfield for a couple steps to see if there's a bigger play that can be made with when he starts to scramble and people start to move around. But, Preston, I mean, you played with I would say two entirely different kind of quarterbacks. You played with Phil Petty, old Fleetfoot Phil Petty, and then you played with Corey Jenkins, who I think Jenkins is a lot more similar, was not as good a passer as LaNorris Sellers, but Jenkins had that big build that A, was tough to bring down, and B, as you said, he went looking for defensive linemen and linebackers to hit.
He played in Nick Saban's defense in the NFL as a linebacker after playing quarterback here. Let me remind everybody, the other linebackers on that defense, Junior Seau, right? So he was a linebacker playing dress up as a quarterback. And that's sort of what LaNorris is. LaNorris does have those things. I think LaNorris is a better passer, a better pure pocket passer than Corey Jenkins was. But LaNorris has all of those intangible things that he can do while still playing the quarterback. And that's why Mike Shula is going to have to try and figure out, how do I work with this really delicate recipe right here? How do I let this thing shine and not try and overpower or try and overcoach or impose my will on this really rare talent that we have?
803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in. A couple of y'all are doing that. Case says the A&M game last year was the coming out party for Sellers. 224 passing, 106 rushing, 2 touchdowns passing, and 1 touchdown rushing. Yeah, we kind of mentioned that. That was the game. And maybe that's the reason you'd prefer to watch that game, say, if you could only watch one over the Clemson or the Missouri game, because I don't think we knew that was there. So now that you know it's there, you go back and you watch it and you're like, oh, man, what a special performance that night. The Missouri game is, again, another one. Shannon weighs in and says, I watch a couple of times a week. So, yeah, at this point in the year,
Siri, pull up the last 5 minutes of Missouri, please.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I totally get it. Maybe I'll go on a little bit of a tear watching some of these games and reliving them as we move toward SEC Media Days and then fall camp and then August 31st, where we are now 88 days away from kickoff. Just 88 days away. 803-404-6100. We'll come back, change topics a little bit, get into some baseball. We got Chance Miller, Coastal Carolina Athletic Director, coming up here at 7:30 this morning. We'll talk with him. We'll talk a little bit about Coastal Carolina baseball, and we'll get back into that Kevin O'Sullivan situation. Florida's down there. They've got the rug pulled back. They're trying to sweep everything under it, make sure there's no more Kevin O'Sullivan discussion, but we'll let you hear again a little bit of what trickled out yesterday as some video footage was leaked of Kevin O'Sullivan and how he feels he handled it after the game. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen, Bill Gunner. It is the early game. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years, Mid-State Roofing has been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry, and it's that history, 30 years is a long time, that is your assurance that their professionals will provide the proper advice, service, and results to the needs of your facility, but most importantly, they're going to do it in a manner both safe and pleasing to you and your operation. Let's be honest, with a roof, one of your main keys is keeping your operation dry and running, and at Mid-State Roofing, they design and install bonded systems with a protective guarantee that'll do just that, and they are there to help you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can give them a phone call right now at 7:12 a.m., and you'll speak with an on-call technician. You can also give them a phone call later this afternoon and speak with a Mid-State Roofing employee. Just give them a phone call, 803-356-1919. That's 803-356-1919. Call Mid-State Roofing today and tell them Bill Gunner sent you. If you've got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek.
Columbia College Drive at North Main Street. We do have a report of an accident there. And still a disabled vehicle could be slowing things down I-20 westbound after Monticello Road. 82 with some afternoon and evening showers coming in. 81 tomorrow with the showers continuing into the morning. And then by Friday, clouds and a high of 91. So warms back up for the end of the week. Right now, though, we are looking at 70 on the early game.
Yeah, so I walked into, all right, so we entered on the first base side, but we were in the third base dugout that game. And we were entering, and I was holding the quad board, which obviously you know, but it's the big whiteboard. And I was holding it walking in, and he was already, cussing out some of our guys that had already walked by. And all the coaches had already walked by as well, but he started cussing at Zayak and Spence Gate Beschloss, but they didn't really acknowledge it. Really, they had headphones on and were kind of just in their zone. And then I walk around the corner, and he's the first person I saw. I'm like, "Good morning, Coach. How you doing?"
Just being good guy Parker. Just being good guy Parker.
Yeah, because, I heard about all the stuff that happened, and, I was trying not to picture him as a bad dude. I was like, it's a bad situation.
Give him grace.
Maybe not his fault. Yeah, literally. And then I turned the corner. I saw him. I said that. He's like, F you. You can stick that whiteboard up your F&A.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, holy. My reaction was, are you serious?
That is the words that we played yesterday, but that is the words of Parker Bird, who is an infielder for East Carolina. And let's start with this, Preston, because you pointed this out yesterday. Parker Bird's story isn't just that of some player wandering onto the field.
Yeah, Parker Bird was in a terrible boating accident in which he had his right leg amputated below his knee. So he is an amputee, which you can clearly see when he wears his baseball uniform, which is another aspect of this idea of, was Kevin O'Sullivan just in a blind rage where he was just pointing his verbal gun at whoever was going to take it in the other side? So, yes, Parker Bird was not excused from the tirade that was Kevin O'Sullivan at that moment.
Have you? I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this too, but have you ever been around? Have you ever seen a coach? Football is an intense sport.
Mm-hmm.
So in Summerville, when y'all were there, it brought about emotions and passions because y'all were good. People wanted to beat you, and you had big rivalries down there. Stratford obviously was one of them. Have you ever been around an opposing coach that you were just like, this guy's lost his mind?
An opposing coach?
Opposing. I take it the way you just framed that you've been around your own coach, maybe not John McKissick, but you.
Yeah, I've seen some things, and we used to go to a football camp, and when I've definitely seen some coaches get into situations mainly with each other. The cardinal rule of coaching is you don't talk to the other coach's players. You don't do that. I can talk to you because you're a man. He is presumably younger than you. You don't address him. If I have something to address, I would address it with the other coach. The main rule is you don't talk to the other players. That's a cardinal sin in coaching. So that's where it violated. So, yeah, I've seen coaches say things in the heat of battle. Hey, Kevin O'Sullivan, you weren't even playing yet. So the idea of I was just so intense, it was the moment. That's not true. He wasn't even the game. There was no game yet. It hadn't started. It wasn't the heat of battle. He was just crashing out, as my guy Tyler Head would tell us.
803-404-6100. Think about this. We're going to go to the phone lines. How do we compare this to what occurred in the Citrus Bowl, in the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl with Brett Bielema and Shane Beamer? I'll come back to it. I'm assuming because they weren't mic'd up. The language was different. I'll take that one right off the top and just say, but you saw intensity. You saw one coach essentially mocking another coach and so forth. So think about that. But let's go out to the phone lines. Joe wants to weigh in this morning. Joe, how you doing? What's on your mind?
Hey, good morning, fellas. So listen, man, I don't know what the conversation about Kevin O'Sullivan is. If we're thinking about allowing him to come be a part of our program, but it's a big no for me. As a coach, you're supposed to encourage kids. You're supposed to uplift kids. You're supposed to be that parent away from home for kids. When you talk to anybody's child like that, no matter if they're on your team or on the opposing team, as a coach, that doesn't sit well with me at all. I coached Little League football for 15 years where I didn't even approve of parents using profanity, but that's at a whole nother level where you don't get paid to do your job. But, I mean, that's uncalled for any coach at any level to talk to any child like that. Bottom line, period, man. Great show as usual, fellas. I hope you all have a great day.
Appreciate it. No. The South Carolina's got a baseball coach right now. Still has a baseball coach. Paul Maneri is so we're not really discussing Kevin O'Sullivan. We did discuss that back in when Mark Kingston was hired. O'Sullivan's name was very prominent for this particular job, even to the point that I think most people thought that was going to occur until he made a run. Until Florida made a run and won the national championship that particular year. And Preston actually gave the numbers on what Kevin O'Sullivan has done since taking over the Florida program, and it is very, very impressive. He's one of the winningest coaches, I think, Preston, you said, since 2008 was what you had. But the bottom line on this is coaches' actions. And Preston, at times we've done message board mayhem where we've turned it into coach mayhem because you've got coaches who are just, not all, but you have coaches who I think are starting to maybe cross the line a little bit more.
And what are you referencing? Because this is way out of line, and obviously, and later I'm going to talk about the Wake Forest coach who was obviously totally out of line.
That is another one too,
and that's one that we will address here. But yes, I think you're starting to see these coaches who are supposed to be beacons of light, supposed to have a certain standard. They're acting like the children, and that is, as Joe said, that's unexcusable. And then to go to your question about the difference between this, hey, Shane Beamer, Brett Bielema, in the heated moment of a game, call me whatever you want.
Okay.
You can call me less than a child of God. You can talk about my mother. You can call me. You can use every single curse word in the books. You can get creative with them. That's in the moment. That's in a game. And also, we're two adults talking to each other. This was not in a game, and he was talking to players from another team. So yeah, I don't think those two things equate.
No, that's why I'm asking, because we do see intensity in games, and this is obviously before. And to be dead honest, and I've looked, that Kevin O'Sullivan was upset about what they're saying, what is being written, is upset about a scheduling change that occurred, but I've yet to discover what exactly the schedule change was.
From my understanding, they seemingly got the game was pushed back an hour from 1 hour from the start time that it was supposed to.
Well, then he was totally justified in being a tool.
Exactly. It was 1 hour. Yeah. It wasn't as if no matter how many hours it would have been, it was only 1 hour.
Right.
And that was where he gave his tirade to the players, to the grounds crew, also to the associate AD that was on board. So yeah, totally acting out.
803-404-6100. We'll talk with Chance Miller, Coastal Carolina Athletic Director, when we come back. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. Happy Wednesday to you. It is the early game.
You know, they say perfection is a journey, and our journey led us to Carolina Stone Craftsman just outside Columbia in Chapin when we needed some countertops in our home. They offer great countertops, no compromises, and I'll tell you, the process was great. From the customers, the first time you have an idea, to the fabrication, to the installation, every step of the process was absolutely meticulous. We were so thrilled with the results. They were very helpful in helping us decide what we wanted, because we just kind of weren't sure. Did we want marble? Did we want granite? What would work better? in those bathrooms. And everything was delivered with professional results. Their showroom, absolutely amazing. It's a must-see. They have an outdoor showroom as well for some hardscape work that they can do. Lots to offer. Visit Carolina Stone Craftsman. They're family-owned and operated just beyond Columbia in Chapin. And I assure you, they are beyond your expectations. Visit them online, carolinastonecraftsman.com. Still working an earlier tie-up there, Columbia College Drive at North Main Street. And aside from that, other things moving along pretty well. Good news there. 82, that's the high we're looking for, but we could see some showers coming in later this afternoon, a little bit this evening possibility as well. Those showers will extend into tomorrow morning, and our high tomorrow 81 up to 91 with clear skies on Friday. Right now, though, kind of holding steady at 71 on 107.5 The Game.
7:31 on your Wednesday morning. Jen Jensen, Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, as we are rolling along here, and joined now by the one and only Chance Miller, a very, very happy athletic director. As Chance, this past weekend, not only did you get to host a regional and all the fun things that come along with that, but you won. Coach Schnall won the regional, and now y'all are off to Auburn. Congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you. It was an exciting weekend. A lot of late nights, but glad we got the win. And now getting on the plane here about 2 o'clock today to get off to Auburn.
Chance, again, congratulations. This is Preston. So we talked before about some of the unknowns that come with being an AD, and this was your first opportunity to host a regional. What was the weirdest thing you had to do that you did not plan for during this regional?
You know, it wasn't weird. It was just we had a huge storm come through here that only lasted, I mean, honestly, like 6 or 7 minutes. But it dropped so much rain that it flooded our entire place. And we had to evacuate everybody, tell them to seek shelter. So everybody's breaking down their, tailgate tents and running off. And then everybody tried to come back as soon as the storm was over. But it blew everything around. I mean, we had straight line winds of like 60 mile an hour. So we had to go back in and completely reset up the whole stadium. And, at one point it was like, are we even going to be able to get this game in? Just because we had so much water, you couldn't even see the warning track. And our grounds crew did a phenomenal job getting it ready. But everybody was just standing outside the gates. So at one point, we just decided, you know what, let's let them in. Even if we don't play, let's get them in here. They've shown back up. It's late at night, and we had our first pitch on Friday night at 10:36, and still had over almost 4,000 people in the stands.
Chance, that's more than the Rockies had last night, so congratulations.
Yeah, they showed up. They didn't want to go home. Even the wind and rain couldn't keep them away.
Well, yeah, Chance, obviously, the weekend wasn't without a little bit of controversy, and you went out and on Twitter, you said you absolutely stand with your coach. I just wanted to give you another opportunity to verbally support your coach and your staff who was involved this past weekend.
Oh, 100%. We've moved on. We're looking to go, try to win 2 at Auburn, but Coach Schnall wanted to come out and defend his people. We have really hardworking people. Our facilities and events and ground crew do just a wonderful job and put on a great regional and had a lot of late nights. I mean, we played Friday night until almost 2 a.m. Saturday night went to almost 1 a.m. and people were right back in, trying to get the field ready, the stadium ready. And, you don't want our people treated in a disrespectful way. And so we tried to handle that in a different way. We tried to handle it privately, but some people chose not to do that. So Coach Schnall felt the need, and I fully supported him with that. I will give credit. Scott Strickland, the AD at Florida, called me directly, and I've known Scott for a while, and he apologized directly to me and my staff and to Coach Schnall, and I appreciate that. But I love Coach Schnall. If you want a coach that does everything, Coach Schnall's it. I mean, he defends his players, his staff. He's loyal. He develops great young men. And he goes out and, really sells the program here locally and throughout the state. He even fundraises with me. And we've went out fundraising together. He's brought several donors in that had no connection to Coastal, but loved baseball and loved being around his program and his guys. And that's helped tremendously. And I don't know if you guys saw it last night, but, Chipper Jones even sent out is it still a tweet now? Since it's not Twitter. Sent out a tweet, talking about Coach Schnall's program and how he loved watching it. So I think people are taking notice of that.
Joined this morning by Coastal Carolina Athletic Director Chance Miller. Chance, let's switch to football a little bit here. You've been here at South Carolina, so you understand that aspect of it. How are you observing what Greg Sankey, the SEC, the Big Ten, How are you observing what they're trying to do with the college football playoff and how you think that impacts maybe Coastal Carolina in the future?
Yeah, we actually talk about that every day. We just got back from Sun Belt meetings, I think a week before the SEC started their meetings. And everybody's talking about the college football playoff and how do they get a seat at the table. And for us, in that group of 5, group of 6, you're really having 65 teams compete over one spot. And, with the SEC and the Big Ten, they're trying to gobble up as many spots as they can, and I understand that. I mean, I lived in that league for a long time. It's hard to compete in that league, and they have really good teams, and they're trying to get as many spots as available. But, for us, that's hard when you've got 65 teams competing over one spot. You've got to go undefeated and, hope that you get in, really. And, for us, throughout, the Sun Belt, Mountain West, and the American, we have really good teams that I'm sure, teams in the SEC wouldn't want to line up and play us and App State and JMU every week. We have some talent, and I feel like, leaving 64 of those teams out of the conversation is not healthy for college athletics. And I still think there is a market for people that want to see those games. You go back and look at our App State game on Thursday night television. It was one of the highest rated games of that week compared to some of the other football games on. So, when we set Sun Belt meetings, I talked a lot about we've got to think differently. What does that look like for us? Is that a different play-in playoff scenario where we're starting a little bit early in the season, and then we're entering into a playoff to try to get into that college football playoff and make it more exciting for fans to watch. I think we've got to try different things because as much as I love the SEC and the Big Ten are trying to cut out the ACC and the Big 12. So if they're trying to cut out the ACC and the Big 12, that's probably not boding well for us at this level.
Do you kind of hinted at something or kind of went down a path that I think I could see coming, and that is the group of 5, group of 6 that you alluded to, breaking off to form your own type of playoff, your own type of subdivision. Is that something that you're hearing is at least a possibility in the next 10 or 15 years, 5 years? Is that how much of a discussion is that at this moment?
It's a discussion right now. I mean, I think all options are on the table. College athletics has drastically changed in the last 18 to 24 months, and it's going to continue to do so. And there are some models out there that talks about that. What I and some of the other ADs in the conference have asked about is let's see what those models look like on paper and what that financially could bring. I keep arguing that I think we are all stronger if we're going out and getting one TV contract, one multimedia rights contract, rather than trying to break it up amongst 14, 28, 30, 36 schools. I mean, you've got a Sun Belt with a media contract and TV. You've got the American with a TV contract. I think it would be stronger together, but we've got to do that analysis and see what that looks like.
Chance, this is your first time in the big chair, and you're a big ideas guy. How fun is it to be able to bring ideas like free concessions and this new basketball court that I'm seeing all over the internet? How cool is it to be able to bring ideas like that to life?
It is really fun. I've enjoyed it, but if I didn't have a really good staff with me, I wouldn't be able to do that. As an AD, you get drugged around in different meetings and things come up on campus. I mean, right now, President Benson, who hired me, is now going to West Virginia as the new president there. He'll be leaving in, 2 weeks? And we've made an offer to a new president, so I've been on that presidential search committee. So you kind of get drugged away doing that. But my staff has done a wonderful job of really pushing the limits. And that's what we've told them to do is, no idea is a dumb idea and nothing's too big. Let's see what we can do. And when you have a board of trustees and a president and leadership on campus that all backs you and athletics and the decisions you make, it's a fun time. Now, I will tell you this. It's a little nerve-wracking. You throw out free concessions for everybody for 22,000 people, and you hope it works, right? If it doesn't, people are going to be angry. So we'll see how that goes. But the court has been fun. We've got some redesigns with things coming out. You've got a really cool brand in Coastal Carolina and the Teal. And what makes it even better is you don't have those long-standing historical things tied to the school because it's a fairly new institution. And so you don't have to work around a lot of the historical things that kind of prevent you from doing fun, creative stuff.
Just a few minutes left with Chance Miller here. I want to come back to something the SEC did, and I want to kind of get your, because I was talking with my son about this. The SEC has now bumped field storming, court storming, whichever one you want to say, to I think it's $500,000 if you were to storm a court. As an athletic director, my son asked me about this, and I was like, the people who rush the field aren't getting fined. So even in your time here, what do you think is the step to stop fans from coming on the field or the court?
I mean, do we really want to stop it? I look back at some of my most, my most memorable moments and favorite times in college athletics, and it was those court stormings or field stormings. I mean, I think about like the South Carolina beating Kentucky by 20 when they came in top 10. Fans coming on, having a good time, and lifting up our players and carrying them off the court, and beating Tennessee. When Spencer threw 5 or 6 touchdowns, and everybody comes on. I think if you can do it in a safe way and allow people to come on and have a good time, why are we trying to prevent that? I mean, I kind of laugh. The SEC always talks about jacking up these fines. If you look at some of the promotions that they do, it all has the court storming and the field storming on it. I mean, that's the first thing you see on ESPN. So how do you promote it and then turn around and say, we're going to fine you? I love it. I want my fans on the field. I think that's a special thing. I think we take that for granted. When you work in athletics, that you're always on the field and running around, a lot of fans don't get that. So we did it here. I mean, when we beat App State on Thursday night, I told them, I said, let's go, come on. And everybody got on the field. We had a good time. We shot fireworks, high-fived everybody, and everybody had a memorable moment. So I don't agree with that. I think if you can do it in a safe, reasonable manner, come on, have a good time.
We look forward to being down there for free concessions and hopefully a field storming in October then.
I've been training, Chance. I know 12's the number. I've been training.
I have no doubt.
We look forward to it. We always appreciate you taking time out. Good luck to you and Coach Snall and the entire program down there. Going to Auburn, go take care of them, and we look forward to catching up with you here later on this summer.
I appreciate it, guys. Hopefully I'll be up in Columbia raising that Teal flag up on the State House after we win in Omaha. So I'll see you soon.
Love to see you do that. We'll definitely be right there with you. Take care, and look forward to catching up soon.
Appreciate it, guys.
Take care. Chance Miller, athletic director down at Coastal Carolina, and obviously going to be a really fun, exciting weekend for them as they travel to Auburn to take on the number 4 national seed, the Auburn Tigers. We'll come back. We'll wrap up our number 2. We'll ask another question. All right, well, we went over to the football discussion, but there was a couple games from South Carolina's College World Series run that I think it's going to be harder to pick which game you would go back and watch if you could only watch one. We'll ask you about that when we come back. It is the early game. That was the call from 2010. 2010, Preston Thorne, a long time ago.
I was wondering if anybody listening now out there, because he never said 2010, I was wondering if anybody knew just by the ping of the bat which one it was. If they knew, like, oh, that's particular one. Obviously, they won in different ways, but I was just wondering if anybody was confused. But, yes, that was 2010, 15 short years ago, Bill.
Yes, let me think of how much my life has changed in the last 15 years. Just starting with the fact that when that occurred, apparently, as I do the math on it real quickly, I was in my 20s, late 20s, mind you.
That's one.
Also fun to hear the great voice there of Mike Patrick on the call. But it brings up a question that we thought of last night, or I thought of as I was rewatching the South Carolina Clemson football game. Games that you would rewatch, games in it, and I go back to that run, and if you've seen the documentary In Spirit, and go back to all those games, I don't think it's just as simple as someone would say, I want to watch the game-winning, the games, the series clinching, because you had to play the two games, series clinching game. You might choose the Oklahoma game that was wild in the first College World Series where they rallied to win. I feel like a lot of people would choose the Michael Roth Clemson game during the first College World Series run. Certainly, maybe you do choose the national championship clinching games against UCLA or Florida. So our question this morning is, which one of those now would you want to go back and watch? And if you got a different one, that's fine. Some people might actually choose the Christian Walker home run in the Coastal Carolina regional that was down there in Conway, the Super Regional. There was a lot of great games during that you might want to go back and rewatch right now if you're going to rewatch any kind of baseball during the summer.
Yeah, and also when you go back and rewatch them, make sure you got your goggles on, because it is not in HD. Boy, it might as well be watching it in black and white TV. You looking like, whoo, we were watching that? We thought that was good TV quality? Boy.
Yeah, back then we were thrilled with that kind of TV
TVs have
quality.
come a long way since 2010.
803-404-6100. This is kind of based on last night, me rewatching the South Carolina Clemson football game from this past season. But if you had to go back to that era, as we get ready for Super Regionals beginning on Friday, if you had to go back to that era, 2010, 2011, and obviously you've been able to rewatch some of it with the In Spirit documentary on SEC Network, which game would you go back and watch? And you can only watch one. You got to go back. My initial thought is people would say, well, I'd want to watch the championship winning game. I think actually more people might choose that Clemson game, where Michael Roth is only supposed to pitch about 2 or 3 innings and ends up throwing a complete game.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of candidates to pick from. You know, whether the twists and turns. And as you said last hour, it's good to know the ending.
Yes.
It's a lot more fun watching the game knowing the ending. It's like, oh, I know how this is going to work.
So we've had that out there also, kind of how often during the summer do you go back and rewatch games? How often do you just, okay, there's not much on tonight, not into the mood to get into Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever. I think I'll throw on a game from last year. And again, just based on this football season, when you go 9-3, you actually got a couple to choose from, unlike 5-7 when it was like, well, do we really want to rewatch the Kentucky game? Is that really worth it? Do I really want to rewatch this or that? 9-3 gives you a lot, and there was 3 great options in the month of November.
All of those games are great games. Even if you, like Chan said, if you're from Coastal and you want to watch the app game from last year, maybe you want to watch the folks storm the field. Hey, there's a lot of options. So I'm interested because this is not something that I do. So I'm curious to see which games people do indulge in.
We'll come back. Hour number 3. We'll get into a little bit more of LaNorris Sellers. Let you hear from Todd McShay again. Chipper Jones weighing in with stuff. Preston agrees, apparently.
Hey, if Chipper says it, I'm with it.
And we got a special edition of the early game coming up we'll get into. It is the early game.
Preston here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. So if your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. If it's a cracked windshield, that's no problem. They'll come out to your location and they'll replace it for you, usually for free, and they'll work directly with the insurance to take away the headache. That's right. They'll come out to wherever you are, school, home, work. It does not matter. Absolute Glass will come out there and take care of the job for you. Now, if you're at home and you're looking to increase the value of your home, you can do that with new windows or mirrors. And Absolute Glass will take care of that for you, too. windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. Say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at absoluteglassinc.com. That's online at absoluteglassinc.com.
Columbia College Drive at North Main Street. That is an injury accident that's taken some extra time to get cleaned up. So be mindful and cautious if you're having to go through that area. Garners Ferry Road just east of Halbrook Drive, an accident there. And St. Andrews Road at Broad River Road. So a few areas of concern and slowdown this morning. And we're looking today for maybe some late afternoon, early evening showers. Those will kind of continue into tomorrow morning. Today's high 82, tomorrow 81. But once that clears out, the temperatures go back up. 91 with a mix of clouds and sun for your Friday. Now we are going to see some afternoon and evening storms possible for the weekend as well. But at least we'll have a day without that on Friday. 69 currently on 107.5 The Game.
$8 a.m. as we roll along. Thank you again to Athletic Director Chance Miller for Coastal Carolina for joining us this morning to discuss a little bit. He, again, Preston kind of backed up what he said in a tweet supporting his, not just his head baseball coach, Kevin Schnall, but his staff, the grounds crew, everybody there regarding the incident with Kevin O'Sullivan this weekend.
Yeah, when you hear him put it in the context of these people are working late nights, coming in early mornings, putting in all that work, it even makes it even more ridiculous how the baby was acting.
Yep. And so we've talked a little bit about that this morning. We've also talked a lot about LaNorris Sellers, and we kind of are basing this on last night, a quiet sports night, relatively quiet. You did have Major League Baseball taking place, but all in all, it was the first time we haven't had, I'd say, some form of a football, some form of a college, college baseball game or basketball game or something. So it was Major League Baseball had it all to themselves. No NBA, no NHL last night, no NFL. Yeah, everything that encompasses our 365-day sports calendar year. So you just had Major League Baseball. It was a great night for Jen because, well, the Cubbies 8-3 over the Nationals last night. They continue to roll along.
It's been a good season so far. Hate to say too much and jinx it, but boy, it's fun watching. If I can't watch them, man, I'm keeping track of them.
Winning is fun.
Go Cubs, go. I'll be coming in playing the anthem at some point here.
Look forward to it. All right. In other good news last night, even though what you said there was only 5,000 people there, how about those Rockies?
Got another one. Are they up to 10 yet?
11.
Oh.
11-50.
All right.
5-28 away, but they pick up a win last night over the Marlins. If you're not keeping track of this, the Rockies are they're trying to set. We talked about South Carolina having a historically bad season. That is precisely what the Rockies are in the middle of trying to do right now. So anytime they win, it might be worth mentioning because we might not have to do it, but about 20 more times. So it might be something to keep. The Braves last night get thumped by the Diamondbacks 8-3. Braves have just all of a sudden come unglued again. 3-7 over their last 10. They've actually now fallen 10 games back of the Mets and 9.5 back of the Phillies.
Yeah. Chop talk tomorrow.
A rough segment there. Matter of fact, they're only 4 games away from falling into dead last in the National League East, but we'll cover more of that tomorrow. But what we have been discussing today, part of our most important things, is because of all that, because last night was kind of limited, I took the time to turn on and rewatch South Carolina and Clemson. And as I've mentioned, one of the reasons is when you know the outcome, you watch a little bit differently. I don't know if a lot of people are out there like this or like me. Preston's asked, how often during the summer do you put on an old game? And it doesn't even necessarily have to be from this year. Maybe you've broke out the old DirecTV and you got the DirecTV box and you got the library on there. Maybe somewhere in there you still got the Outback Bowl and the Jadeveon Clowney hit, and you're like, you know what? I'd like to rewatch that.
Fire up that DVR, TiVo, whatever it is.
Kids that are listening, maybe your parents have burned it on a DVD, which I'm sure a lot of kids are not familiar with anymore. But maybe it's been
no, they are not, because my daughter tried to get a DVD from the library, and I was like, babe, we don't have that anymore. She's like, what is this? So,
yeah.
That's a long story.
Wait till you show her a VHS. But last night watching South Carolina and Clemson, and I say this because you go back and you rewatch the game, and you just realize some of the things that LaNorris Sellers was doing at the very end of the season, and the difference that was from the Old Dominion game where he looked unsure of himself. He looked tentative. His passes were a little high. Last night, just going back and rewatching it, and now translating that to this year and what he's going to be is some of the discussion we've had this morning.
Yeah, you have to watch how brilliant he is during that game, how confident he is, and how he essentially puts the team on his back to make those plays. And as you said, there were some plays early in the game where you get some foreshadowing to, this guy is going to go off today, and he eventually did it.
He did, and again, I kind of brought up just because obviously that it's beating your rival. I'm not sure when you go back and you now know the outcomes, which might be more fun to watch. The Texas A&M game is his coming out party. That's the one where we all went, this kid might actually live up to everything that we anticipated him doing. Look at how special he is. Look at him breaking these tackles. Look at him making the plays. South Carolina would obviously go on to win that one handily, 44-20. But then you might go with the Missouri game because of, again, the play of LaNorris Sellers, the final drive. Todd Ellis, even though wouldn't be on on the television broadcast, yelling, "Launch him!" after Rocket Sanders goes into the end zone. You might watch that a little bit differently because, again, you hate Eli Drinkowitz, and you're like, all right, I know we're going to get him. I can watch this with a little more pleasure. So you go back now and you really, really take it in. Ronnie weighs in and says, I know it wasn't close. Was at the 2012 Georgia game. Would love to watch that one live again. Man, it was loud.
Yeah, it was a great game. I was at that one for sure.
AJ says, used to love to fire up the old VCR and watch the Quincy Carter 5-interception game.
Shout out to Dennis Quinn, man. I saw Dennis Quinn walking through the friendly neighborhood Kroger the other day. So, yeah, the guy that got 2 picks during that game is now looking for fresh vegetables in the Kroger. So that's how life happens.
So you can keep weighing that in. David weighs in. The Texas A&M game is my favorite to rewatch. I get excited every time I see Sellers body the defender to get the first down.
Which made me think, I know we're having a lot of fun watching LaNorris Sellers. How do you think Lonnie Teasley feels watching these games over and over again?
Not the same. Not the same. It was, yeah. The question is, does he watch him? Does he go back and rewatch him by himself, or does he have a bunch of offensive linemen sitting in there rewatching with him?
I don't know. I don't know, because the flip side of LaNorris's brilliance is that he had to be brilliant.
Yeah.
That was the only way it was going to work.
Yeah, that's how we learned.
Yeah.
But no, we've been talking about that. And then that led us to listening to a little bit of Todd McShay, who tries to give a player comparison here for LaNorris Sellers. And this is Todd McShay. And do we know who the other person is?
I did not know who the other person is. It's on Todd McShay's podcast.
It's on Todd McShay's podcast. But you could just hear their excitement, their enthusiasm for what LaNorris Sellers is becoming. And here is some of this podcast with Todd McShay trying to offer a player comparison for LaNorris Sellers.
I can't coach what he's got, man. This guy's a bigger Jalen Hurts in my mind. And I want you to remember where Jalen was at Alabama in his first year as a starter. Mm-hmm. There were flashes. There were some amazing things, but he was a hell of a lot better as a runner than he was as a passer. Right? He's 2 inches taller than Jalen. He's 15, 20 pounds heavier than Jalen, yet he's just as fast and he's just as sudden. And when he's playing with confidence, he's just as creative. That's it. Yeah. Like, that creativity is so dangerous, and you can't coach that. Okay?
You can't.
You can't coach what Jalen has. You can't coach what LaNorris has. You can't coach what Lamar has. You just can't. You either have it or you don't.
I'm ready to go, I guess, bigger. Jalen Hurts is awesome, so don't get me wrong. I think this kid could be Josh Allen. Like, I see Josh Allen because I see that frame. He's that much bigger. When you look at how big this guy is and what he can do.
I just think he's twitchier and doesn't have the arm of Josh. I think he has a damn good arm.
Oh, man, I don't know.
Josh Allen's arm?
Yes. I don't know, man. I know it's the ceiling. I know LaNorris Sellers isn't there yet. I get it. But the raw ability, the tools, the talent, I mean, it's exciting.
I mean, you think we're giddy and you think we hype them up. I mean, there's a lot there to kind of unpack from what they're saying.
Yeah, which, by the way, if you're just now tuning in, we proclaimed during the 6 o'clock hour, we were first to this hype train. Sure. We claimed this earlier. We've said this. We've stated this. It's good to see the national folks getting on board, taking our takes, and that's fine. But, yes, they are very excited about those folks. And those two comps are very poignant because we're thinking about Josh Allen now after he's been refined and he's been in the NFL. But we don't remember when Josh Allen got drafted. He was big, he was strong, and he could throw the ball a million miles, but he would throw it to the other team a lot. He would throw it to multiple guys on the other team a lot, and he would make a lot of absolutely ridiculous.
Still does to an extent.
He still has that wildcat in him, and LaNorris does not have that. He obviously needs to work on controlling the ball. He needs to work on ball security. But as far as the coachable aspect of it, he doesn't have that wildcat that Josh Allen has. It's not a matter of like getting LaNorris to settle down and not try and do too many things. He is very much composed and under control when he's in the pocket. Very different than who Josh Allen was. And like you said, there's still a wild hair of Josh Allen will do anything.
I'm trying to remember the one this year where he like rolled right and just threw it way back to his.
Yeah, LaNorris doesn't do that.
Yeah.
That's not part of his game. So the Jalen Hurts comparison is maybe a little more apt.
The question we've also brought up is now how much pressure does this put on Mike Shula to, as you heard Todd McShay open that with, he does things, I don't know why he's saying I can't coach. That might have been the other person actually who was a coach, I'm not sure. But saying I can't coach. But now that brings us kind of to how Mike Shula will handle him, to coach him to get better, but not coach that special skill set out of him and to take that away from what makes him a special player.
I think maybe that's where the Lamar Jackson comparison maybe comes in, because Lamar, obviously, in college, he played under Bobby Petrino. If you remember, he didn't run that much. He ran essentially a pro-style offense. And I think Lamar gets in his head sometimes now that he's in the NFL trying to prove that he's a traditional quarterback, when sometimes they're just like, hey, Lamar, see those two things that God gave you? Run, please. And sometimes he tries to hang in the pocket too long and try and prove that he's a pocket quarterback when he doesn't need to do that. So that is another comparison that makes a lot of sense.
So we've been talking a lot about that this morning. If you want to weigh in via text or a phone call, 803-404-6100. That's how you can give us a shout and let us know what you think. Coming up next, we'll get into a little bit of Chipper Jones. That's right. What do we got here? Chipper says it, so you don't like it?
Chipper says it, I'm with it. If Chipper doesn't like it, I don't like it.
So we'll let you hear more from that. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It is the early game. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing. Let me tell you something. Whether you're here in Columbia, whether you're in Florence or Myrtle Beach, Aiken or Augusta, Charleston or Greenville, Mid-State Roofing is there to help you or your business. They want to make sure your operation stays dry and running long into the future. And they do that by being there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It doesn't matter when you give them a phone call. If you call after hours, you'll speak with an on-call technician. And if you call during hours, you'll speak with a Mid-State Roofing employee who's ready to help you with a maintenance contract. They've been in business for over 30 years. It's those 30 years that is your assurance that their professionals will provide proper advice, service, and results to the needs of your facility. So give them a phone call today and line up a maintenance contract. 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. Call Mid-State Roofing today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
St. Andrews Road at Broad River Road, we have an accident there. Also Garner's Ferry, east of Halbrook Drive. And still trying to get things cleaned up, Columbia College Drive at North Main Street. So caution in those areas, please. 82 for our high today, but we will see some showers rolling in late this afternoon, maybe into this evening. Tomorrow, those showers will continue into the morning, then should be clearing out. But 81 will be our high tomorrow. And then once the rain is out of here, we get back to clouds and sun on Friday and a high of 91. Saturday could see some afternoon or evening storms and a high of 92. But right now, sun is peeking out. It is 69 on the early game.
One last thing I have is I have to say this, and I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not, but I believe in standing up for what's right, and what transpired this morning on our field. Another coach disrespected our associate AD, who works as hard as anybody in our entire program. He disrespected our field crew, who are the salt of the earth. These guys would do anything for our program. It's not okay. And this needs to be brought up. Absolutely disrespectful. As a coach, it's our job to mentor young kids. And the way he treated the 2 site reps, the way he treated our associate AD, the way he treated our field crew is absolutely unacceptable. And that's what I'm most disappointed about. This is a national champion coach who thinks he can come in here and try to bully people around. Disappointed. Disappointed, somebody that a lot of coaches look up to. For him to act that way, really disappointed. He disrespected a Hall of Fame coach who's the site rep here. That's all I got to say.
That was the voice of Coastal Carolina head baseball coach Kevin Schnall as he voiced his displeasure with the way Kevin O'Sullivan acted prior to Florida's game against East Carolina on Sunday. And Preston, Chipper Jones weighed in as well.
Chipper did have something to think. Now, I don't know if this tweet is sponsored by Get Off My Lawn or if Chipper's right, but as I've said, I grew up watching Chipper. Chipper is maybe the athlete of my time, a guy that I watched from minor leagues to the third base to tearing his ACL, left field. So if Chipper says it, I'm going to take it into consideration. This is Chipper. Spent quite a bit of time watching college baseball this weekend, and I will only watch a select few teams from here on out. Reason? They have coaches that respect the game and their opponents and demand the same of their players. Any team that doesn't wear the uni correctly, taunts the other team, and has a coach that condones this behavior is a disgrace to the game. Big fan of Coach Schnall at Coastal Carolina. Him and his team represent what college baseball should be. Well done, sir. You stand for proper behavior. And get off his lawn.
Get off his lawn.
Yeah. So I don't know what that stands for, but I'm apt to agree with Chipper on this because I've been watching this and I've had it on the idea sheet for a while. What's up with college baseball? There's a lot of things that are happening. It feels if the game is the coaches in next segment, I'm going to have a special edition of the early game talking about Wake Forest's head coach, Tom Walter. But it is very noteworthy when you watch the games play out, the attitudes and behaviors that are taking place on the fields, whether it's players, coaches, fans, etc. There is something that is amidst of a change in college baseball.
Is it in college baseball or is it across sports with younger kids? I would almost venture to say it's across sports.
It might be across sports, but I think we're in baseball season round. So I get what you're saying, but what we're looking at right now, and maybe it's across sports because there's a lot of things that are happening as far as we'll just for the umbrella, we'll say the idea of travel ball.
Yeah.
But you could say across sports, but we're watching baseball now.
Well, here's, again, another thing that we probably were the first to at the forefront was the celebrations for a double. And,
hey, man, 2 years ago I said, what's going on here?
Yeah. I was going to say because, and I say that because baseball is supposed to be more of the almost the gentleman's sport. The basketball is more the trash talking, the taunting, right? Like that's, and I don't know how it is in football, but obviously football is an emotionally tense sport. It's a violent sport. So we see maybe more fights in football or cheap shots, whatever you want to call it. Basketball, I think we see more language used, if you will, more trash talking, taunting. I always think instantly of Gary Payton when I think of that. But baseball is kind of the gentleman's sport, right?
Oh, I mean, there's always been tough, but that's how they portray the game.
Well, I mean,
there's a lot of this idea of doing things the right way.
Well, I guess what I was going to say is you do have technically Albert Bell running over second baseman and a couple people taking pitches to the back.
Fair. It's all fair.
But by and large, like you said, you get a double, you slide in, you shake the dirt out of your pants or do whatever you got to do, and then you stand up and you get ready to try and get to third and then get to home. Now it's get to second, stand up, look at your dugout, and there's some kind of celebration you got to have, right?
Yeah.
And this is where we noticed it a couple years ago.
We saw it for the double. This year I've seen it on walks. I've seen it on pitchers striking people out. I saw the clip from this past weekend. The Tennessee pitcher strikes the guy out, walks him down, looks at him. And my whole big thing is, can we fight? Because if we're just going to talk trash, but we can all just go to our separate dugouts, then what are we doing? And this is why football is God's game. Because, hey, you want to talk trash? I can now put your face in the dirt, and we can end this. In baseball, it's not allowed. In basketball, if I touch you in basketball, it's a foul, right? So this is where my issues come in, because there's a lot of chirping, but we can't actually really do anything about it. And so if I hit you, you get a base, and there's all kind of stuff like that. But I think it is the winds are changing as far as what college baseball is. And when you watch the games over the weekend, there is a distinct difference between how some teams conduct themselves. Jamie Bradford even said that he's not a fan of the Kentucky team. There's what Tennessee does very consistently. As far as wearing the uniforms, you saw the Georgia players have their buttons basically down to their belly button.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool, I guess. It's just something different that's happening.
I think you're right. I don't know if I see it as much in the major leagues, as much as I was watching in April and the early part of May as you do in the college game. But the question is, where do you draw the line on that between having emotion, having fun, showing a little bit of a swagger, and then where does it cross the line to being simply too much? And then whose job is it to rein that back in? Is it the player's job to be like, all right, I'm not upholding the standard of the university or whatever it may be, or is it the coach to step in and say, no, we're not going to do this?
Well, it's always the adults in the room. Okay. The adult in the room is always the person who's responsible for making sure that proper conduct is taking place. And unfortunately, you don't seem to see a lot of that. And again, I'm not coming across as the fun police here. There is lines. You can have fun. You can celebrate with your teammates. I think that was one of the things they came up with during the John Whittle article, is that Paul Mainieri told this team he could look at the dugout and clap once for a celebration. That feels very Paul Mainieri-ish, but it's just something worth noting as you watch these games going through the College World Series, is how the behavior on the field has changed.
803-404-6100, how you can weigh in. We'll get to a special edition of the early game for Preston Thorne coming up in just a minute. But I came across this during the show, and this is an article from yesterday, and I'm going to try and read it more this afternoon. Maybe we come back to it tomorrow or Friday. College Sports Wire, Matt Zemek, has an article up on something I was saying yesterday about NCAA baseball should reseed teams for super regionals in the College World Series. And I came across that, and that was something we kind of brought up yesterday, and I mentioned to you, I was like, I don't really see anybody discussing this, so it's the first time I've seen an actual article about it. But I do wonder, for a team like Coastal Carolina, who's the 14 seed, why did they get punished by still having to go play Auburn? Excuse me, I think Coastal's the 13th seed, Auburn's the number 4 seed, whereas you've got Texas San Antonio and UCLA, who won their regionals, and they deserve something for that, and that prize is getting to advance to the super regionals. But why those two play each other when a team who throughout the season proved they were one of the 16 best has to go play a more difficult regional? And so I'm gonna save this article and come back to it for tomorrow here and discuss that a little bit as we look ahead to the Super Regionals this weekend. 803-404-6100 is how you can weigh in if you want to do so. When we come back, somebody on here says not enough talk on our text line. Not enough talk about Tom Walter. What are they going to do to him?
Come on in the room.
Good news.
Come on in the room. Special edition of the early game.
803-404-6100. It is the early game.
Preston here for Midland Landscaping and Lawns. And Paul Romelstein, the proud owner of Midland Landscaping and Lawns, wants to remind you that it's fire ant season. And you might know that if you look out in the yards and you see those little mounds popping up everywhere. So for over 30 years, Midland's Landscaping and Lawns has been helping families enjoy their yards without worrying about the firemen. So if you got those fire ants popping up, you need to take care of them. You don't want them affecting your kids or your pets. So give them a call. The treatment program is fast, effective, and safe for your family and pets. And best of all, it's guaranteed to keep fire ants away for a full year. Don't wait around. Take care of those fire ants, and let's get them taken care of. Midland's Landscaping and Lawn. Visit midlandslandscape.com or give them a call at 803-356-8080.
They're going to be doing just an exercise, a hurricane evacuation exercise. They will not be reversing any lanes or anything, but just if you see something going on I-26, that's all that is today. They'll be doing that between 8 and 3. St. Andrews Road at Broad River Road, we do have a report of an accident. Also I-77 southbound at Forest Drive. Garner's Ferry just east of Halbrook Drive, and Columbia College Drive at Main Street. North Main still seems to be a problem there. 82 with some afternoon showers today. 81 with morning showers tomorrow, and then a mix of clouds and sun for Friday. 91 will be our high. 70 currently on the early game.
.832 as we slowly start to wrap up the Wednesday edition of the early game, but we have to have a serious conversation. And this actually, Preston, coach has gone wild this weekend. Kevin O'Sullivan doing what he did has kind of overshadowed what Tom Walter, the coach at Wake Forest, got caught doing.
Yeah, this is the early game, man. We like to have a lot of fun. I can do start bench cuts all day. We can do favorite songs. I can do all that. But when something serious happens, we do have to address it. And Tom Walter was caught on video during the game against Tennessee using a homophobic slur. Not the homophobic slur. The one that, unfortunately, and this is where the conversation starts. Unfortunately, I grew up in the 90s. You grew up in the 90s. We all grew up in a different time period. And to be very honest, that word was used a lot more when we was growing up. And especially in sports culture, jock culture, it was used a lot. It wasn't right then, but at the time, people excused it. Maybe you didn't know that it was the actual thing that hurt people. Maybe you didn't understand the gravity of that word. But here we are in 2025. Everybody's very clear on the content and the meaning of using that particular word. And so when you choose to use that word, you are making an absolute choice. And he was on video in his dugout, again, around players who he's supposed to be a role model for, wearing the uniform of an institution he's supposed to represent. And he was caught on video saying that term. And it's essentially it's inexcusable behavior. Now, the real issue is nobody's trying to legislate language. You say whatever you want at the bar, in your home, to your friends, in the group chat. I don't care about that. But when you are representing an institution of supposed higher learning, you're supposed to be a coach who's modeling behavior for young adults. That's inexcusable. And the idea of saying, I was caught up in emotion, I didn't know what I was saying, that's not going to be something that is acceptable in this particular behavior. So Tom Walter was caught. I don't know him. I don't know his heart. That's not my job. All I can do is judge by what you did on camera in those actions. And so it's an unfortunate incident, but there does need to be some repercussions for it.
The statement from Walter that he released, Tom Walter, said, to go to Preston's point, says, I'm very sorry for my outburst and frustration last night, and I recognize the hurt and disappointment it's caused. I have seen the videos, and while I do not remember the specific moment clearly, that language doesn't reflect my values or the standards of this program. Regardless, I own the consequences, and I apologize to the University of Tennessee, to Wake Forest University, and the SEC and the ACC. This was in Game 3. This occurred on Monday night or Monday afternoon when it took place. Of course, Wake Forest lost that game 11-5 to Tennessee. I don't want to say interesting, but the Kevin O'Sullivan stuff, we mentioned he was a prominent candidate in 2017. Tom Walter was a guy that was mentioned, I wouldn't say prominently, but was a guy that a lot of people kind of liked for this particular job. I don't know if there was ever any serious discussions that took place between he and Ray Tanner, but I will say last year when South Carolina was looking for a new head coach, Tom Walter's name was brought up a good bit, and he was a guy that I read up on, Preston. And when I saw this, at first I thought this was one of those AI-generated like things where they can do that.
Point. That's where we are in today's. You have to check everything. You have to check and verify everything. That's a great point.
Yeah, because this is at least what I read. Now, again, behind closed doors, in locker rooms, whatever, we don't really always know what's going on and what the language is and things of that nature. But everything that I had read on this guy was a very upstanding, baseball-minded model of kind of what the sport is. Kevin O'Sullivan, we could outwardly see that Kevin O'Sullivan, I mean, I still, one of the first things I remember, I think during the 2017 run for Kevin O'Sullivan or whatever, like taunting somebody else's fans by doing the Gator Chomp after they won a series or something. And, and you can also say, well, no, he was doing it because of excitement for his team. But Kevin O'Sullivan is not the model of upstanding baseball guy.
Right.
Tom Walter is supposed to be, and so yeah, this was kind of a shock when I initially saw it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He can be all of those things. He can be an upstanding citizen. He can be a great coach. He can be all the things. And he could have made a mistake. People get punished for making mistakes all the time. And you made, yes, you did. If it is a mistake, I cannot. I don't know your heart. I'm not trying to find out your heart. All I know is in this time period, you used a word that we as a society as a whole have decided, hey, man, we don't do that anymore. And that's the reason why I put that up, because there were points in my growing up for me where that word was used. But we've learned better, and we need to do better now that we know. I was reading up on it, and unfortunately, it seems to be a culture of things happening in baseball. There have been several instances where players were suspended for either using the word towards fans, using the word towards other players, and things like that. And so I don't know if that's a bigger idea, but in 2011, Kobe Bryant was fined $100,000 for using that word. He was suspended for multiple games, and David Stern in 2011 said, hey, we're not doing that as a sports nation. Here we are 15 years later, and you cannot be the person who's representing an institution doing that with that institution's logo on your chest. You just can't. It's different if somebody maybe caught him at the bar in the street and he said it. I've been be like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't want to get into. But he's in a public space. He's a public representative, and so he has to wear the brunt of that.
What you just mentioned that, I'll ask, what is a proper punishment in the eyes of Preston and Jen? I'll ask you the same thing here in a second. Like, is it, I don't want to say it's simple, but I don't know a better way to phrase it. Is it as simple as, hey, you're suspended for the first 3 games of next season? The opening series, you're suspended, and you got to pay $50,000, whatever. That's why I'm asking you two. Mine would be, yeah, because of this, you're suspended for the first 3 games of the series of whoever they play next year to open their season.
I don't know, man. I would say this. I think anything's on the table.
Because I think
it could go from 0 to wherever.
And it could be education, and helping promote equality and things that just make him more socially aware. And maybe there's his platform he can use to help other people understand that, hey, this wasn't cool. Let's, so maybe using his visibility for good.
Right.
That could be part of it.
And that could be a thing, because that's why we're here, is the visibility. In the end, that's why I'm saying we're not trying to. I'm not trying to say we need to legislate people's language. You say whatever you want, man. If you want to be, if that's what you want to do, whatever.
Yeah.
But when you're representing a institution and you're supposed to be a model citizen for younger adults, you just can't do that.
A lot of good points there. 803-404-6100.
Cuts.
Texter weighs in, says, bravo, Preston. Thanks for being real.
Thank you.
So, 803-404-6100. Again, the situation there up at Wake Forest. Come back. We will wrap it all up here. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It's the early game. Final segment of the Wednesday morning program where we have covered LaNorris Sellers. We have talked Coastal Carolina baseball. Thank you again to Chance Miller for joining us this morning. We have had a very serious segment. What would you like to do that's lighthearted?
Full disclosure, on a rundown it says something stupid to lighten the mood. Yeah, you gotta have something in there. So we was talking about people rewatching games yesterday, and you just got caught up in. How did you get to just rewatching the game yesterday? How did that decision come about?
I've been wanting to rewatch it. I mean, I'll be honest, my television watching habits are basically watching sports at night. Jen and I think, share an affinity in the afternoons for watching Friends. So, like, I'm a pretty basic, like, television person.
Same here.
And so, like, at night, I really honestly was talking about, I can't tell you the last time I sat and watched a movie. Actually, I can because I've done it with my kids. But I can't tell you the last time I watched a movie that I had not seen previously. Like, something was coming out and somebody's like, oh, I want to see this on Netflix or Prime. Or
I'll have it on for noise.
Yeah. So
I do need to dive into I have not done the Prime series on Earnhardt. That I've got to watch.
We need to do that as a family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I haven't watched it yet, and Tyler was talking about how good it was, and I think we need to watch it.
It's supposed to be really good.
Yeah. Very emotional.
They were releasing it in pieces, right? I think they released the first 2 episodes, and then they got the final 2 episodes. So, I agree with that. We do need to watch that. But to your point, thebigspur.com posted a picture the other day of South Carolina. It was a picture of, like, a touchdown in the South Carolina Clemson game. And I was like, I was very intense in that game. Like, we were all very, like, fired up. I remember in the game thinking, like, this Dow Lockins doesn't know what he's doing. And then the next week being like, oh, no, don't leave us, Dow. But it was one of those things, going back and rewatching it last night, knowing the outcome, focusing on some of the little plays, remembering the little plays. I'll give you an example. I was kind of live tweeting it as it was occurring last night. And there's a particular punt that Kai Kroger hits that somehow he had some kind of special sauce up at Memorial Stadium because it hits, like, right at the 1-yard line, just backspins, and South Carolina downs it at the 5. In Clemson's favor, I tell you something that I noticed last night. Bryant Wesco Jr. and T.J. Moore are going to be problems. They're good. They're good. I think Clemson has had an issue the last few years with true standout wide receivers. I mean, they ran through a bunch there with Hopkins and Watkins and T. Higgins all coming through. I mean, those guys obviously see what they're doing in the NFL, or what they have done in the NFL, stand out. But Wesco and Moore, there's poor Judge Collier. There's a particular, I think right after the punt, poor Judge Collier's in great position twice. Wesco gets him on the left sideline once, where actually Judge Collier bats the ball away, and Wesco is able to bring it in. There's another, T.J. Moore kind of pushes off a little bit if I'm being a South Carolina fan, but he gets Judge Collier on another one, almost back-to-back plays.
But on the rewatch, when you're seeing this, you're like, oh, okay.
On the rewatch, I'm like, oh, man, that's actually a really good play.
Nice play.
Yeah, tough break for Judge Collier. Guys. At the game, I'm like, those guys are awful. But I got into that and kind of went downhill. And I'll probably watch the second half tonight and rewatch it and not be as intense, obviously. But I do kind of now want to go back and rewatch the Missouri game and the Texas A&M game to pick up on things that I kind of missed because of what we've talked about today, the development of LaNorris Sellers. But to Jen's point, I can watch Friends reruns pretty consistently.
Yeah, that's where I am with Law and Order.
Okay. Oh, okay.
the original season, not SVU. I don't do that. Original Law and Order. You check and you see who's the DA, who's the associate DA. And I have certain seasons that I really, really enjoy. Some other seasons when Anthony Anderson was a coach, was a police officer. He's a detective. I was like, I don't like that too much. But some of the original, Sam Waterston, my guys. So yeah, I understand the idea about watching a show over and over, even if it's just for background noise.
And that's a lot of times because I feel like I'm one who, I feel guilty if I'm sitting. I have to be doing something else. So if I'm sitting watching something, I've got a laptop doing stuff, or I'm folding clothes, or I'm very bad about that.
Just for that soothing when I hear that doom doom.
Okay, makes you feel good about yourself.
Here we go.
Yeah, but I hear that and I think, somebody's about to lose their life. Something ugly's about to happen. I look at it a totally different thing. Like, ew, I don't want to see the first 3 minutes.
First 3 minutes, somebody's out.
Oh, not good.
I've got to admit, I'm not sure I've ever actually watched an episode of Law and Order. It'll be on if I'm at Move Fitness, that time of the day. So obviously I'm following the storyline a little bit, but I can't hear it.
Here it is. Somebody's dead. We got somebody too early. We bring them in. They didn't actually do it. Now we got to go find the real person. The real person had an ulterior motive. We take it to trial.
Somebody's covering it up for him.
50-50 chance we might win or lose in trial. And he's like, oh, man, are they going to win this one or not? I don't know.
803-404-6100. These final minutes, send in your mindless television watching that you'll get into because of the 15 and the 13-year-old Ansley and Alston. I've kind of been suckered into Bob's Burgers as well.
Okay, all right.
Bob's Burgers in the afternoon, like will kind of they'll watch them. And both of my kids have gotten into, or Ansley more so, has gotten into The Simpsons, kind of rewatching.
Okay,
so
well, now see, I got some
That's classic.
respect for her on that one.
And you said that 13 and 15. 13 and 15 automatically was either MTV or ESPN for me.
Okay.
It was either flipping back SportsCenter's on or I'm watching something silly on MTV.
Jay weighs in and says, love watching MASH. Family hates it, though.
Yeah. Now, MASH, you can have on Andy Griffith. I mean, there's just those classics that, again, they're feel good. I think it's kind of nice because some of that transports you when it was an easier time. So it's like I can just sort of zone out.
Ty goes with Rick and Morty, hands down.
I've heard a lot of people talk about Rick and Morty, but I think Rick and Morty is sort of cerebral. Like you have to be getting some of the jokes there. So I don't know if that works.
Okay.
Oh, Michael in the live stream says 2.5 Men. Yeah, that's not one you're necessarily going to watch with the kids, but that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
good
was,
call.
Different. Yeah. I never got into that much. So
Really? Oh.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
Like I said,
Once Ashton Kutcher came in, it lost its luster.
Unfortunately, we talk about transcendent talents.
Yeah.
You got to have Charlie Sheen in order for it to work. And
yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I think tonight I'll rewatch a little bit of the South Carolina Clemson game in the second half and get into the NHL. NHL playoffs tonight. Early in the program, I kind of talked myself into at least pulling for the Oilers tonight. I'm not sure if I'm hate watching against the Panthers or legitimately pulling for the Oilers. But NHL playoffs gets going tomorrow. We'll get into some NBA.
Yep.
Looks like an uphill battle for your Pacers.
It does. My Pacers look like they're going to be struggling. We'll see.
This battle looks very significant for your Pacers. So we'll do all that. Y'all have a great rest of the day.
Appreciate y'all.
Bill Gunner for the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder, and First Palmetto Bank.